So this is kind of tricky. Figuring out which way up these formers go is really not that obvious, and it's impossible to tell from the pictures. So what I've decided to do is I'm actually going to have to pop out the E, which is the side of the fuselage, and pop those pieces on so that we can figure it out and get it right. It's one of those things where you don't want to commit to it until you're sure, and I mean, I guess it will help you guys, because once I tell you which way it goes, then you won't have the same problem. So let's see how that goes. I only need one of these fuselage sides to make that work. So this is going to fit on to the side of the K there, and then sort of roll down, so you can see how the slot goes on. So I'm going to actually put that into the E. And I'll put that into the E there. So that seems pretty obvious that that's what that is. I think I had that right. Yeah, that was right. So it goes in like that. That would be, so that's where that goes there. Yeah, that actually works because so that actually works because those slots from the B piece actually then slot nicely into those sides of the fuselage of the E that we see there. So again, this is all dry fit, just making sure that it works. This all comes together. The K, so that's the KL. So there's the L, and I was right about that. That's the right way up because that's the only way that will fit. So now we get to where these pieces need to go, and then I think it becomes fairly clear actually that they are. So these two pieces, which is the M and the N, it's the part where the keys on both sides, the tags on both sides are close to the top. They're the ones that go at the top, and the ones where it's further away from the edge, they go at the bottom. So that will slot in there nicely there like that. And this is the soft balsa makes it quite easy to slot these together and make sure that it works. But that's basically how it goes. So I'm going to actually sort of slot this all together, show it to you so that you can see how that works, and then you'll know when you're following through on the plans. The instructions say, connect these into B first and then slot your E on. But if you do that and you get it the wrong way around, then you're going to be in trouble. So again, same thing. I was almost doing it the wrong way. It's an interesting point though. That means that, see this funny looking extra long tag that's on that N piece. Well, I had been assuming that would go on the bottom, but actually it's going to go on the top. So I'm guessing it sticks out of the top of the fuselage here and probably is used for connecting the tailplane somehow. But so there's a slot there through the B, and that long tag on the end of N needs to actually go all the way through the fuselage, through that B, and stick out basically. And again, it's incredibly difficult to see that from the printed picture. If you really squint your eyes or use a ultra high resolution microscope, you might be able to see that actually that lines up with what we're seeing with our own eyes here, and that there is a little piece of that tag that will stick up above the B when we're done, and we'll see probably when we get down the track how that little piece helps with some of the structure of the tailplane. But see, that works. So now what we have is these pieces actually slot together into the B and the E, and that'll, it's actually fairly solid. That would, you know, almost not need glue. I mean, I probably will glue it with some wood glue just to sort of lock it into place, but it's really quite clear that that's correct. So, so again, just for the hints when you're going through the plan, on the K, this piece, the rounded piece goes at the top. When you get to the L, it's where the tags are very close to the top. That's the top piece. It's also the wider tag that fits into the B versus the smaller tag that sticks out the bottom. And this tag here is actually further away from the edge. And that's the only way it will work and fit into the E, so you know that it's right. And then when we get to the M, it's the same thing. The tag is closest to the top is the part where that goes on the top. I've seen with other models where they actually like mark which top and bottom, and it can be very helpful. Here it's quite difficult to know and get it right. So if you followed through that plan, it'd be quite possible that you could get it upside down and then have a problem. But in this case, I think that we're good. Oh yeah, and then the last one, which is that N piece at the end, which has that extra long tag at the top, that actually goes all the way through the B and sort of sticks up in the air a little bit. And that's how you know that that one's the right one. So I think we're good there. And in fact, putting the E's on next, so putting the fuselage sides on, is the next piece of the instructions. So I might as well, oh, but the other piece is the A. So the A needs to go in here at the front. I'd left that off first because it was a little awkward, and now obviously, again, it's a question of getting it the right way around. There's the 3 tags from A go into the tag slots in the middle of the K. It's not like joining up with the A at the top, but it's actually, it's not that top one, but it's the middle piece where it slots into. It's fairly clear from the picture actually that that's what happens with this one, but just so if you're following through on the video, you don't need to refer back to the plan. You can see that, that's how that works. It's kind of being a little awkward to get in just because I've fitted the E together first for the other pieces, but I think because it's the soft balsa, and if I'm just a little careful, I should be able to slot that in and get those slots tags to slide into the K slots without too much trouble. And I say that and it's not actually happening. It's just a question of me and getting my eyes lined up with the pieces. There we go. So there we go. That's actually quite clean fit. It was just a question of jiggling it a little bit to get it to slide in. And again, that's fit. We know that's right because it's so solid and just sort of connected together. Barely needs glue to hold it together. It's really quite firm. So let's while I'm doing this part, I'll just pop out the other side of E, because that's actually the next part of the plan anyway, and it's really quick and simple to pop that out. Just quickly cut those little pieces where the joins are. So there's a couple more at the end here, cutting across the grain, and I think that's, there's one more over here. All right, so there we go. So that should then slot on just nice and simple right onto the side here, because everything should be in the right place now. It shouldn't be difficult. It should just clip on really quite simply. Everything should be straightforward and clean. Let me just get that. Okay, so I'll do this. Start with the M. I'll start at the bottom end, so that slides on there. That slides in there. It's having a little trouble getting into that, exactly into that. There it is, just clips into the, that was the M. And then we go to L, do its 2 tags there. Should slot in quite simply. Whoops. Oh my goodness. You see, I'll show you this. This is one of those things where you've really got to be careful. So just when I was squeezing on the other side of the plan, I held this in the wrong place. And now I've got a loose bit of balsa where I've just about clipped the tag off the side. And I'll fix that right away before it causes a problem. So just a little bit of wood glue. One of those examples where, you know, the balsa itself, the kind of the concept, the wood, is really quite amazing because it's so strong, but also so flexible, and it can be also so fragile. But the good news is, when I do something like that, that I can just glue that. I'm just putting a little tiny bit of glue into the break where I broke that off. I'm going to glue that tag back on right away and fix it in place, and then by the time I get ready to tap on whatever it is that goes over the top there, I think there's a nice cover that goes over the top of the fuselage. That little piece should be dried, so we should be good. So as long as I keep, so I mean, lesson for you, I suppose, a lesson I should have learned already by now. But yeah, when you're working on one thing, be careful what's going on in other places. So I mean, you notice I was trying to pop on the tags on this side of the fuselage, and I accidentally broke this little tiny tag on the other side with my not that big fingers, because I just wasn't being careful. So now let's get back to the L, where I'm just trying to slot the L into its slots, and that's the problem here. It's just not quite lining up. When it lines up, they'll just slide in beautifully. So that bottom tag is slid in. The top tag is just not quite, oh yeah, the top tag has now gone in perfectly. So we're good with that. So now we're up to K. We're trying to get the K to slot into its slots. Just need to wiggle it around a little bit until we get the tags to line up with the holes. Pretty close. And this one's going to be a little awkward here. It's the same thing. There we go. That one's on. And the last piece is that last tag on the L, on the K here. And the same thing, it's don't force it. When you get it right, it'll just pop right in. There you go. So just a little tiny wiggle and it slides right on. It really is just so easy. If you're pushing it in the wrong place, it won't go, and you feel like, oh, I have to push harder, and then you'll break something. But if you just wiggle it a little bit and just move it till it's just exactly where it needs to be, then guess what? It actually slots nicely into place and it's perfect. So that's all lined up nicely there. Just get the last piece here, the last tag on the side of that A piece, slipping into the side of E, and there we've got the whole fuselage. So I am going to glue now, I think, because what you notice, I don't know if it's not, again, it's not really clear from the picture, but although all of these sides slot together nicely into their keyed pieces, the last little piece here, unless you actually hold that in together, the sides don't quite line up and stick to the sides of B. And so, I mean, it's almost like that's the only piece of glue you need in a way, would be just a bit of glue inside that join to join that together, squeeze that in, and that will pull those two pieces together. And it wouldn't mean, you know, that still doesn't join together, like it's not closed at the end, but those last two pieces actually need to be glued so that will hold together. And I'll probably say that the similar thing happens at the end here, just to give it that bit of strength. It's going to need a little bit of glue, probably to hold the two E's on the sides of the the A, and I don't know if it even needs any other glue. That might even just be enough, I think. Maybe for a little, because it's, you know, it's really quite structurally sound. Even without it, probably does make sense to glue. When I'm just looking at it now, I can see sort of some gaps in here. So I'm just going to run a fine bead of glue down the side here. Glue in there, and then glue in the sides of where that piece A joins into the sides of E. So I'll do that now while I'm talking about it. And then we have our fuselage. So let's just do that. So let's glue into that gap there. So put a bit of glue into that tag slot. And I'll just do one side first and then the other side. Again, because I'm using the white glue, it's quite forgiving. My glue's a little stuck there. Clean out the nozzle. So actually I think I am going to glue on both sides here just now, because what's actually going to happen is I'm going to need to hold that together so that the two pieces are firm and in the right place. Just clean off that excess glue with my finger. Actually, I'm going to get it's a little awkward because it's get a little bit of wood. Clean out the excess glue out there with a little piece of wood here. This is one of those interesting things about this whole model, the Dancing Wings kits in particular. You know, it shows you how to connect all of these pieces together, but generally speaking, doesn't say anything about whether and where things need to be glued. This clearly needs to be glued, and maybe they just assume, well, it's obvious. So, I mean, hopefully I can help you by telling you, yeah, you need to glue this piece. That definitely is required. And you know what I mean? I could have used super glue, because now I'm going to have to, I'm going to get a peg. I have these awesome little modeling pegs that I picked up at Michael's, and if I just clip together, then I don't have to hold it anymore, and I know that it's going to be right. So I'm going to leave that peg on the end of the model there. Just run a little bit more glue down the sides here. Just a fine little bead, doesn't need much. Yeah, do the same down this side. And again, if you prefer, you can probably use super glue, CA glue, if you want to. Maybe I'm just being a little old-fashioned by sticking to the wood glue, but personally I just generally prefer it. One of the things about the wood glue is that if it's necessary, it's much easier to sand it, and that can be a good thing. Probably not going to sand this part, so maybe that doesn't matter so much. And actually, you're not even going to see this part. This is going to be covered. later on, so it matters less really than and you probably could super glue it, but I kind of think that it just helps to have a sandable, an easier sandable glue. I mean, it's not that you can't sand the super glue, but it does. It's actually, super glue comes out quite hard when it's dried, which can be very, very useful in some cases, but it's not necessarily what you want. So let's just glue that again, that fine bead down. Just pop that open so that the glue can actually run into the slot, and do it on the bottom as well. That's running through nicely. Okay, actually, and just pop that open again, so that when I say pop it open, I'm just holding the side of the E open a little bit, so that I've got a gap for to get the glue in between the two pieces. So hold it in, run the glue in, and then pop it back together again, so that now I've got a firm connection. I'll just get the glue, clean out the excess. Probably use a larger piece. It's actually going to dry nicely. All right, and I could pop a rubber band around it